Good morning. As we go to the Chumash of today, we're holding in the portion of Vekudei. We're holding on chapter 40, verse number 1. Vayidaba Hashem Moshe, Lamer, and God spoke to Moshe, saying, B'yem ha'chodesh harishen, on the day of the first month, on the first month, in the month of Nisan. Takem es Mishkan, you should set up the Mishkan, Oyel Moed, which is called a tent of meeting. Samta Shamas Aron, you should put into the Mishkan the Aron, the Ark, Eidos of testimony, Isachta Be'al Aron es Halakapedes, and you should spread the dividing curtains towards the Ark. Now she says an expression, the Sachachta is an expression denoting protection. For this dividing curtain was a partition, not a covering, a divider between the holy and the Holy of Holies. Then you bring in the table and set up its arrangements. Then you bring in the maneda, and kindle its lamps. This were 2 stacks of loaves. There was altogether 12 loaves, 2 stacks of 6 and 6. And then you should put the golden altar, the potatoes for the incense. So before the tent, before the arin. Then you put the screen of the entrance to the Mishkan. And you should put the burnt offering altar. Mishkan before the door of the Mishkan. I'm sorry, before the door of the tent of meeting. Then you should put the washstand between the tent of meeting and between the altar. Sata Shamayim, we should put the water. Santa Zachatz, then you should make the courtyard around it. The Satas Masal Shadachatz, you should place a screen to the gate of the courtyard. Then you should take the anointing oil. Mishachtas a Mishkan, you should anoint the Mishkan, Vaskala Shabay, and everything that's in it. Kidash Ta'ishi, you should make it holy. As Kai Kala Kalev and all its vessels, Vahir Kadish, and they should be holy. Then you should anoint the altar of burnt offering. It's called Kalev, all its vessels. You should sanctify this altar, and the Mizbeach will come holy of holies. Then you should anoint the washstand and all its bases. Then, verse 12, we should bring closer Aaron and his sons. Married to the door of the tent of meeting. We should wash them with water. Take him to the mikveh. Then you should clothe Aaron in his holy garments. You should anoint him, and sanctify him, and they should serve me. Then you shall bring his sons. And you should put upon them tunics. And you shall anoint them. Like you anointed their father, and they should become priests to me. And it shall be to them their anointment for an everlasting kahuna for their generations. Yes, Moshe, and Moshe Rabbeinu did. Whatever God commanded him, that's what he did. And that completes the Chumash for today. Now I'll go to the Tanya of the day. We're holding in the middle of chapter 35 of Tanya. Before beginning chapter 35, it will be worthwhile to note once again that the Tanya is based on the verse, Ki karev elecha, for this matter, observing Torah mitzvahs is near to you, in your mouth and your heart, that you may do it. This verse asserts that the Torah is easily fulfilled through all of man's 3 forms of expression. Also, what's called garments of the soul: thought in your heart, speech in your mouth, and action, that you may do it. In a deeper sense, the phrase "in your heart" refers to the emotions of love and fear of God that they too are very near to you and easily attainable. Considering this latter statement, the Alter Rebbe points out in chapter 17 that this claim appears contrary to our experience. In fact, it's no means as easy matter for us to acquire love and fear of God. It's not an easy situation. So, what is the meaning of that it's easy to you to do? It's the general Alter Rebbe's question then. In answer, he explains that the phrase that you may do it qualifies and describes the emotional intent of the word in your heart. Explaining what means in your heart. In your heart means lasese, that you have enough in your heart to be able to do it. It's not that you're going to take over your heart totally. It means that your heart will give you the capability that you do the right thing. Thus, what sort of love and fear of God is very near to you in your heart? The love and fear which serves to motivate one's practical observance of mitzvahs, even though such love and fear are not experienced in the heart as a burning fire, as the Alter Rebbe says, a spiritual emotion. Intellectual contemplation of God's greatness will lead what? To intellectual appreciation, love, on God and awe. So it's intellectual love. Really, the heart is the source of ultimately the intellect itself, because where the heart desires, where the heart wants something, where the desire, there's a ratzin, the mind goes there. Well, that's when a person awakens up his heart. But until then, we have an intellectual awakening of the heart. That means it comes through the mind, and that's a limited emotion, because basically it goes according to my mind, how much av and yira I can wake up in my mind, which will turn affect the heart, since by nature the mind rules the heart. The heart will then be motivated and resolved to observe the mitzvahs in the spirit of love or fear. Alter Rebbe went on to say that even he who is not suited to such intellectual contemplation may also attain love and fear of God by revealing the natural love hidden in his heart of every Jew. This love also contains an element of fear, the fear of separation of godliness. Thus, indeed, it is indeed near, and it's easy to serve God in one's heart, meaning out of both the love and fear of God. What way a person says, you know what? Without intellect, I know that within me, maminim b'nei maminim, we are believers, sons of believers. We have aval Hashem. We have a natural love of God. And as Alter Rebbe says, within this love, there's a concept of fear. What is the meaning of fear within this love? I love the Eibishter so much that I don't want to separate from him. And that's a concept of fear that comes from a love. Yet, from the wording of the verse, it's very near to you, in your mouth, in your heart, that you may do it. It is evident that however necessary the love and fear of God may be, the actual practical observance of mitzvahs is paramount. Following chapter, the Alter Rebbe explains the superiority of practical aspect of mitzvahs over the seemingly more spiritual aspect. Actually, the concept la soisei, action does do it, and the concept of doing is very important to a human being. It's also important to bear in mind that the Alter Rebbe definition of the rank of a Beinoni, the Beinoni is he who is not guilty of any sins, whether in action, speech, or even thought. So we have to understand what level of person we're talking about. Alter Rebbe is talking about a pretty high level of person, a person that never sinned in thought, speech, and action. So, because once you sin, it's much more difficult. You have a covering. My sin creates a covering, which is much more difficult to accomplish the heart, because that's the concept of like where there's a covering over the heart, and there's like a thick layer, so the heart doesn't have the capability. Called in the Siddur, it's called Timtum Aleva Moyach, the stuffing, the covering of the heart and the mind. So but Alter Rebbe is talking about a person that doesn't let himself have a cover. He never comes to that concept. The inner evil of his animal soul, however, retains its native strength. So even though he doesn't allow himself to even have a thought of evil, even to have to never even have a mashava, thought of evil, speech of evil, chashom, never to do an evil act. But nevertheless, the Beinoni still has an animalistic soul, and it retains its native strength and is capable of arousing forbidden desires in his heart. Only by contrast of vigilance, does the Beinoni prevent this desire from finding an expression in action. That's it. The Beinoni struggles, so to say, with his innate, with his nefesh habahamis, with his animal soul that is alive and well, so to say. So therefore, the Beinoni has a struggle more. That's why the Rasha is given into his nefesh habahamis. In a way, he's given in. That's why he has a covering already. He has already the separation between him and God, because he did the sin already, whether in thought, speech, or action. Goes and starts to explain the concept of action, because ultimately the importance that Alter Rebbe is going to tell us, irrelevant who we are, we have to accentuate the concept of action, and that's what's important to us. The aspect of la'asoseh. That's why it's the last thing in the pasuk. That means the concept of beficha and levavcha. The aspect of what's in your mouth and what's in your heart is on the concept of la'asoseh, the aspect of action. So in the verse, for the matter is very near to you in your heart, mouth and your heart, you may do it. Whereas mentioned, the climax of the verse is emphasis on action. La'asoseh, the concept of Alter Rebbe, as Alter Rebbe explained in chapter 17. That is the extension. That is what the verse wants to tell you. The most important thing is la'asoseh, the aspect of action. To let us understand in a very small measure, the purpose of a Beinoni. To remain forever the level of a Beinoni. That's Alter Rebbe says you'll never become a tzaddik. You might slip into a Rasha, but you'll never become a tzaddik. And that is a Beinoni. That's why it's a struggle for him. Not to slip down. Not to slip into his evil nature. So it's a constant struggle for him. As explained in chapter 14, the soul of a Beinoni are usually incapable of rising to the level of a tzaddik through their own will or effort. The Eibishter wants to give them that gift. He'll give it to them. But if not, they were created to be a Beinoni. And the Alter Rebbe says we're all created to be a Beinoni. We're all created to be a Beinoni. And that means we're all created to be in the mode of this battle, and to make sure that we never ever, because we're talking about in 3 levels, in thought, speech, and action, that in these 3 levels we never ever slip down to a concept of a Rasha chas v'shalom. The purpose of their soul descending in this world, the soul of a Beinoni. You think about it, it's rachmanis in a way. The Eibishter sent down the soul into a body that has an animal soul. Shemeklipa, what's a big klippa? It's a big covering. It's a big challenge. V'sitra achra. It's the other side. It's the opposite of his godly soul. The Eibishter takes this neshama, puts it into this body that has an animalistic soul. And again, the Eibishter knows, God knows to begin with that this guy is not going to become a tzaddik. It's not going to happen. So therefore, he knows this guy's going to, he knows that you're going to struggle your whole life. He cannot chase him away. You can't get rid of him. I can never get rid of this nefesh habahamis. I'll never get rid of it. That's it. That's life. So it's a pasha, you think about it. This poor soul, why would the Eibishter do that? Why would God give a soul, take a godly soul, pure soul, this pure soul, godly entity, total opposite of this animalistic concept? And the Eibishter says, I'm putting you together. You're becoming house bunkmates. You're getting together. That's it. I'm bringing you together. You got to live together. Why? Why would the Eibishter do that? And not the evil imagine is arise to the brain. And then the Eibishter God expects that the godly soul is going to prevail and not allow, forget about action. He's not going to allow the animal soul didn't come to his machshava. Because as I said, the Beta Beinoni, the essence of the animal soul, is full power. So the animal soul is at full power. He wants to desire. He has everything. He has everything ready. So now he has all the power. He has all the excitement. He has everything. And now you're gonna stop it. You're not going to allow it. Except that its garments, meaning the form of expression as evil thought, speech, and action, do not clothe himself in their body. Mentioned in chapter 12, where the Alter Rebbe explains that by means of the constant battle with his animal soul, the Beinoni prevents the budding evil of this soul from expression itself in thought, speech, and action. So, however, since the Beinoni succeeds in only suppressing the garments of the animal soul, but can never, despite all his efforts, affect any change in the essential evil nature of the animal soul itself, the question arises, if the Alter Rebbe says, the question of all question arises. So why did their souls ascend to this world? To strive in vain. You're telling this neshama, you're coming down to the world. Your bunkmate is gonna be this nefesh of Bahamas, and you're never gonna change it. Your whole work in this world is never gonna change your animalistic soul. You're telling this soul you're gonna fight with this Yetzer Hara all the days of your life, and you'll never vanquish it. So we explained in the previous chapters that an ongoing battle waged by the Beinoni in preventing his evil inclination from asserting itself in thought, speech, and act causes pleasure to above. How then can we complain that the battle's in vain? So that's the question. Yet, were this divine pleasure the sole object of the battle, there would be no reason to having a divine soul clothed within the animal soul. On the contrary, the two souls ought to then be separate and distinct from each other, so that whatever this divine soul emerges victorious for a particular struggle against the desire of the animal soul and acts, speak evilly, and its soul to act or to speak evilly, would then act alone without the participation of the animal soul. Since the divine soul is closed within the animal soul, the objective obviously lies in perfection of the animal soul itself. From this perspective, the battle of Beinoni does indeed seem futile. You're right. The concept of God's happiness, you're right. We said God, when we control ourselves, God has a great pleasure. But then that doesn't answer the concept of my personal struggle. I was brought into this world to be part of this animal soul. Why would I not have a victory in changing this animal soul? From this perspective, the battle of Beinoni needs to further, since all his efforts have no effect on the evil nature of the animal soul. So what would be the answer to why did I come into the world to come part of this animal soul when this animal soul is never going to change? So you're right, I'm bringing a godly pleasure, but then I'm still part of the animal soul. So I brought godly pleasure, and meanwhile I'm stuck with this animal soul that's never going to change. Alter Rebbe answers, let this forthcoming explanation be to them. Let us give you the solace to comfort them in a double measure. L'teshia and aid them to gladden their heart to God. Not to gladden God, but that we should be gladdened. L'smeach libam b'avaya, that they may gladden their heart to God, who dwells among them in their Torah, b'seich teirasam v'avedasam, in their Torah and in their divine service. Meaning, the explanation that the Alter Rebbe is going to soon say will show them how to find comfort and joy in the godly light that abides within them when they study Torah and when they engage in the service of God. That something actually happens, as the Alter Rebbe is going to explain. Something actually happens even to their animalistic soul with their service right now. So not only does something happen Milamaila, but something actually happens Milamata. Something actually happens within themselves. So even though, as the Alter Rebbe is going to continue, doesn't transform totally, but something happens to them when they do Torah mitzvahs. What happens? That you're going to have to wait till tomorrow. Because Chitas, the Tanya ends over here. And we'll have to all wait till tomorrow. Today is the 4th day of the month, which the Tillim of the day is chapter 23 to chapter 28. You do those 6 chapters, you do the Chitas of the day. I invite you all, 10 o'clock, Mitzvah Hashem, we will have a beautiful class of the Rebbe Sikha of the week at 10 a.m., either at Chabad or on the Zoom or on Torah Direct. I wish you all a wonderful day, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Mitzvah Hashem, 8 o'clock. We'll continue to learn the Chitas of it.